Hey everybody, welcome to Big Valley Living. My name is Michelle. Today we're going to talk about one component of my cancer journey. I have stage 4 colon cancer. I am currently in remission, and I'm going to start going through different components of what happened. So we've talked about warning signs that I had and that others sometimes experience from what I've read. And today it is really close to the 7th anniversary that I had my very first surgery for the colon cancer. It was, at the time, one of the scariest things I had ever gone through. And I want to walk you through what happened and the feelings, and then hopefully it will help you to find some peace if you're going through the same thing. At the end of October of 2017, I found out that I had colon cancer. There was no idea of what stage it was or anything. I had had a colonoscopy, and the result was that there were cancerous cells in my colon. So very quickly, my medical team worked to get me scheduled for surgery, and my surgery was actually performed on November 16th, 2017. I had already been prepped very well by my surgeon and her team as to what to expect, what kind of diet to adhere to prior to surgery, preparing the day before surgery, and then what to expect after I had surgery. So we're going to go through each of those things briefly. Something that's very important, because I'm super proud of this, is that my surgeon told me that she didn't care if I smoked until the moment I walked into the hospital on the day of my surgery, but never to put any more nicotine products of any kind into my body afterwards, because it would make it very difficult to heal just from the surgery part, and also because it's really just not very good for you. So I did have a cigarette the day before, maybe two, but I was actually doing a clean out, much like you do preparing for a colonoscopy. So I wasn't eating anything. I was drinking a lot of liquids. I had to take antibiotics, a lot, like a week's worth of antibiotics in one day prior to surgery, just to make sure that the inside of my body had kind of been front loaded, if you will, with antibiotics to make sure that it would reduce the risk of infection. So is the day before surgery. One of my sisters-in-law came into town from where she lives, and she was going to stay here with the dog while I was in surgery, be here for my husband and I both, just kind of as moral support. And we had other family in town as well, but it was really nice of her to take time out of her life to come and help us out for a few days around the surgery. About a week and a half to 2 weeks before surgery, I couldn't have a lot of garlic or onions or things with seeds, no fruit. I really wanted to back off of any kind of meat products or anything, because the idea is that you're preparing your body, right, to be as clean as possible prior to them opening you up and doing surgery. So I had a lot of soft foods for especially the week before. I had a lot of soft foods, not a lot of vegetables that have seeds in them. Again, I adhered to everything. No nuts, no fruit with seeds in it. And it was just a very bland diet, but it wasn't bad at all. I had a lot of soups and everything, which I love, so that wasn't a big problem. And then the day before surgery, I did a colon cleanse, just like before one gets ready for a colonoscopy. So it was all liquids all day. I did a quick clean out. I also had to take a lot of antibiotics. I don't have it written down what I took, but I do recall that it was about every 3 hours I had to take 2 very potent antibiotics. And I remember being very nervous because the last 2 pills I was supposed to take, I couldn't do it. I was so nauseous from not eating and taking a heavy dose of antibiotics. But the instructions did say that if you can't do it all, just let the doctor know in the morning. So that's what I did. And then the night before, I obviously was drinking a lot of liquids, a lot of clear liquids, water. I think I had some clear chicken broth earlier in the day, but nothing dark and nothing with any kind of color. You can't have juices like that are red or orange or purple, so no grape juice, no, nothing with pulp in it, anything like that. So I just kind of stick to water, it's just like a cleansing day and it's okay with me. So I did that, and then before bed I had a preparation, and so I had to take a shower, and then you put the preparation on your abdomen and you let it sit for approximately 5 minutes. There was a timer and everything. It made it very easy. So I got really clean. I made sure I had clean sheets on the bed. I made sure that all my, night gear was clean, and I wanted to set myself up for success as much as possible. And my surgery was scheduled for 6:30 in the morning the following day. So I wanted to get as much sleep as I possibly could. I didn't sleep very well, but at a certain point, exhaustion took over and I was able to get some sleep. Then you get up the next morning and repeat the cleansing process on the stomach. The instructions were excellent. And so that all went off without a hitch. I go in the next morning. I hadn't had a cigarette. I did take a shower, did everything I was supposed to do. I did the cleansing and got to the hospital at, I think, about 6 o'clock. We checked in, and then they take all your vitals and they check your blood sugar, your weight, your heartbeat, everything, My surgeon actually came in first thing before the anesthesiologist came in. She gave me an overview, explained that at this point, we could see things there were tattoos inside that the gastroenterologist had marked. And those were the spots where he had suspected that I had cancer. And so that made it a little bit easier for her and the surgical team to determine, roughly where everything was contained. So she came in and explained that to me again, asked me if I had any questions. And then a few really important points there is that she did let me know. She said, we're going in and we don't know how extensive it is at this point. So her goal was to remove whatever diseased part of my colon needed to come out, and then hopefully do what's called a resection, and that would just be basically take out the diseased part and reconnect everything on the inside, and then it would heal and I would not have to have any kind of a external bag or external source of using the restroom. But there was no guarantee, and she made that abundantly clear. Now at that point I'm thinking, as much as I don't really want that colostomy or have to have a bag on the outside, it beat the alternative, which would be just the disease progressing and me not making it. So as much as I was hoping that wouldn't happen, she did go over that with me, and I appreciated that because she didn't want me to have any unreal expectations or, be nervous if I woke up and that happened. Another thing that she told me was to go over once again the fact that I wouldn't be eating meat, I wouldn't be eating any raw vegetables or fruits, I wouldn't be eating anything with skins on it, meaning say zucchini. I'd have to peel things like that, take the seeds out, and then prepare them. I had a lot of mashed potatoes and mashed sweet potatoes and gravy already prepared in the freezer. I had some broths and soups and things that fit the bill, and I just made sure to prepare ahead of time to make life much easier before the surgery happened. So again, her team and the doctor helped me to prepare very, very well for a successful recovery. Another thing that my surgeon wanted to be sure that I was aware of was the fact that I was going to be getting up and expected to start moving immediately after surgery. As soon as I got out of recovery, the expectation from the doctor for a really good and healthy recovery was that I would get up and start walking as soon as I could. So I was prepared for that as well. I had recently picked up a Fitbit so that I could see how many steps I was taking and monitor my activity level, because the higher activity level, the sooner I could get back to a normal life. The surgeon also explained that the surgery was going to take place using a machine called a Da Vinci. And the Da Vinci has arms that come down. It's a big robot. And so these arms come down and they puncture your stomach in certain areas, key areas. And then a lot of the surgery is done almost like a video game. I don't know any better way to explain it than that. It's very technical, but it's much less invasive. Then there was going to be another small incision that would be made to remove whatever diseased part of my colon that would have to come out. That kind of surgery helps you to heal faster because you just don't have so much muscle mass being cut through for the access to the inside of your body. So after the surgeon came in, the anesthesiologist came in, and the anesthesiologist asks you your weight and your height and everything so that they make sure that the medication is appropriate. They asked me if I had ever had surgery before. I had. Had I ever had nausea in coming out of anesthesia? I had. So he ended up giving me an antiemetic somehow, I think within the medication, but he also gave me a patch that went behind my ear. And I was so grateful because now I know about that and now I know to ask, and I have had no issues post-surgery after having anesthesia. And that's a good thing to know. So if you're going to have surgery and you think you might get sick, or you've never had surgery and you're going to be under anesthesia, you might want to consider asking about that option, because there's nothing worse than having surgery and then throwing up. And all those muscles, if you think about all those muscles, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful it didn't happen. As I went into the operating room, the first thing I saw was the Da Vinci. And it's big. It takes up it took up about a quarter of the room, and it's on wheels and everything. So we went in, they moved me over from the bed I was wheeled into onto the surgical table. And then they showed me the Da Vinci. They, showed me roughly how it works, obviously. They can't show you every last detail. And then they asked me if I had any questions. And one thing that I am adamant about, and I did not have a problem asking them to do, was to ask them to play music that is kind of soothing in the background, and to please not talk about anything negative during surgery. I really believe that the subconscious self can hear what's going on, even if you are asleep to a certain point, right? And I didn't want any negative messages coming into my psyche or into my emotions. So I asked them to talk about positive, neat things that were coming up in their world. Thanksgiving was coming up. And I said, if you see anything super horrible, please try and frame it in a way that says, hey, she's going to get over this. This is going to be a great outcome, that type of thing. And they all looked at me and said, you know what? That's a good idea. We can do this. So they did. And then they even asked me what kind of music I'd like to hear. So I told them I really like John Denver. So I know that as I was going to sleep, John Denver was playing. And do I know the name of the song? I can't remember now. I wish I would have written it down, but I didn't. So anyway, they start to put me under, and then they did the surgery. And the next thing I remember, it was about a few hours later. Next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'm in the recovery room. I'm not nauseous. I was happy about that. And as I started to come to, they must get in touch with the surgeon. So she came in, and she was smiling from ear to ear, because she was able to resect my colon. So, once again, we were both overjoyed. My husband was overjoyed. Everybody was overjoyed because my body was going to be altered a little bit, but not nearly as much as if I would have had more of my colon removed and would have had to have had the colostomy. So she let me know that as soon as I was feeling up to it and all my vitals were fine, that I'd be moved up to my room. And that at that point, it was going to be Tylenol. There might have been codeine a little bit in it, but Tylenol was going to be the medication. And that she expected me to get out of bed and take at least a few steps within about a half hour to an hour of getting to my hospital room. She also explained that as soon as I could toot or pass gas, that would be a good sign. I wasn't going to be going number 2 because obviously I hadn't had any food. So the sooner that I was able to pass gas and go to the bathroom on my own to pee on my own, the sooner I would be getting out of the hospital. Now my surgery was 6:30, scheduled for 6:30 on a Thursday morning. I did not want to be in the hospital throughout the weekend. And I did everything in my power. And I asked her, I said, is it possible for me to be going home tomorrow? And she said, it all depends on what you and your body can get done in that period of time. So they did have me on a catheter for a little while to empty my urine. So that was kind of a bummer as I was walking and everything, because I had my little, you have to have all the medicine anyway, but I was also connected down below for urine. But I was able to get up and walk. I think my first walk, I walked from the bed over to the door and then back. And then about 45 minutes later, I walked a little further. I actually went into the hallway, and by that evening, I had walked down to the nurse's station and then I'm going to say around a little block. So I walked down to the nurse's station, back up. This is like maybe 8 hospital rooms down, and then back up and around. And then that became my hospital routine when I went for a walk. I was hunched over a little bit, obviously, and I was very sore. I'm not going to, make any bones about that. I mean, of course I was sore. But the nice thing about having a hospital bed is that I could lower it to set my feet on the ground and everything else. But my mindset was, I am going home tomorrow. I want to be healthy and I want to be ready to go home. And then the following week was going to be Thanksgiving. So I just wanted to get out of the hospital. I don't remember a whole lot besides just going back and forth and starting to work on healing until approximately 2:30 in the morning on Friday morning. I tooted. I texted a note to my husband. I said, oh my gosh, I did it. I think maybe I'm going to ask if I can go home today. So I did get permission to go home on Friday. So 36 hours after we got to the hospital, I was actually sitting in my own home. And that was like the most joyous thing. Well, the second most joyous thing that had happened, because the first most joyous thing was the fact that I was still intact. So I came home. Like I told you earlier, I already had things like mashed potatoes and soups that I like, and I'm going to call them post-surgical approved diet sitting next to me and ready to go, ready to heat up and everything. And I had also prepared some meals for my husband and my sister-in-law, like some frozen lasagnas, and I think I had frozen chili and stuff that I couldn't eat, but I knew that he would enjoy, and it would just make his life easier as well. So I get home and I continued to walk, and then a couple of days after surgery, my doctor called me, the surgeon called me to see how I was doing. And she was like super, super excited. Again, it's right before Thanksgiving. And she said, I have got the best news in the world for you. We did not get any indication in your lymph nodes that the cancer has spread. And we got everything, and it hadn't gone through your colon. I don't know for sure, if you're going to need chemotherapy at all. But you are going to see an oncologist to talk about everything. I would say that the most challenging part of post-surgery at home, especially for the first week, week and a half, easily, was getting in and out of bed. You have to learn how to lift one leg over the other, roll onto your hip, get yourself to sit straight up, and then to stand up. And once I mastered that technique, getting in and out of bed was easier. My muscles started to get stronger just from the act of doing that. And another thing that I wanted to be sure I did several times a day, remember, I had just quit smoking and I had major surgery with anesthesia, was to do that breathing apparatus that you do, and you have to hold your breath and push your breath out long enough to hold the little ball for a certain period of time. So I did the lung exercises religiously, and I kept challenging myself to do a little bit more and a little bit more. Same with walking. I stayed inside where I could grab onto something if I needed it for about 3 or 4 days. And then being in Northern California, we have gorgeous weather here year round. So right around Thanksgiving, I was out walking in the backyard, again, where there were places for me to grab onto things. I had chairs strategically placed on the patio, so if I needed to sit down or I needed to steady myself, I had something. But setting yourself up after surgery for success and knowing what to expect and planning just in case if you needed, like I said, I need a place to sit down. Or when I was walking in the house, I was walking in and around my dining room and kitchen. So there were plenty of places I could hold onto a counter, hold onto a table, or sit down on a chair. I allowed myself the grace to do it in my body's own time. But there were times I didn't feel like getting up and walking, but I did. And it was very important that I did. Within 10 days, I actually got normal clothes on, and my nieces came over, and I walked up to my primary doctor's office, which is about a half a mile from here, from my home. And so I walked up there and I walked in the door, and everybody in there just started clapping. It was super cool. And I was able to tell him, you know, all of the particulars and everything. I think like your mindset is such a big part of going into surgery. If there's a takeaway here for you, ask your surgical team to do certain things if it's going to make you comfortable. And they are more than willing to do stuff like that, right? Ask your surgeon any questions you need to ask. Ask the anesthesiologist anything that you have a question about. Every little thing that you do or every activity that you take into your own hands to become a really strong partner with your teams is going to make your experience better. It's going to help you to heal. And part of that empowerment will help you heal because you feel stronger emotionally knowing that you're a part of it. So I am going to leave us at that point after my surgery. And then we'll come back and talk. The next time I talk to you about the first surgery, I'm actually going to go into details about the chemotherapy discussion with the doctors. I'm going to talk to you about my first week of chemotherapy. I took really, really good notes, and I have like a diary about it. And it's important to note that I actually went back to work and worked almost completely full time after my surgery. I was able to work from home pre-COVID a little bit, but not very much. And so I had like a modified schedule at the office if I needed to leave to go to an appointment or something. That's how that played out back then because I didn't have a work laptop. But I do want to talk about that, and I don't want to drag the first surgery on. I wanted to focus on what happened in and around that surgery. And if you're getting ready to go through surgery or you know somebody who's getting ready to have any kind of like colorectal cancer surgery, please share this video with them and let them know that there are things you can do prior to that surgery to set yourself up for success. And if you're the one going through it, please don't be super scared, okay? However it plays out, it's going to be part of your story. And however your story ends up, it's okay because it's your story. And just keep that positive mindset. It is so important to be positive. Imagine, just imagine a happy, healthy, long life. It can happen. Thanks again for stopping by. See you later, everybody. Be kind.